Hey guys, so I just finished painting my 1548 G3 in the Razor Grass pattern by Red Lake Stencil, and I think it came out pretty good. I used some green because I'm in Florida and our marshes stay green year round. They get a little deader, but there's still plenty of green out in the swamp, so you don't want to be this big brown splotch on a background of scattered green and a lot of yellow and browns. Kind of stays in that bright palette throughout the year for the most part. But anyways, I searched the whole internet over, like, for the tips and the tricks of how to stencil up this boat without making it look like total crap. And I think mine came out pretty decent. I give it a B+, but I learned some things along the way, and I wish I'd have found a video like this that would have told me that before I got there, because it probably would have made things go a little bit smoother. First off, I ordered 2 sets. I probably would have ordered 3 of the large stencils. And the reason for that is you're going to cannibalize a few of these along the way, and also as you're going through them you have to rotate through stencils because they'll get like paint soaked, and that creates you can get paint on the back of the stencil and it creates like a nasty kind of stencil with a bunch of smudges and stuff. But anyways, I want to give you some of the pointers I got along. First off, most boats are angled down, and you're trying to get this big floppy stencil to lay up flat against it. It'd be really difficult. So when I was confronted with that problem, I come up with a couple ways to kind of help out, and here's pretty much what they are. So first, you got to get this stencil taped across the top nice and tight. And of course this is where everybody's going to start. I'll just tape it up there. But you're always moving it down, and you don't want set up on each one to take 30 damn minutes. So what I did is, after I got it held up there, I run one long piece across the front and up onto that. Okay. The problem is you have this edge here, and you're going to have this edge in the middle of the boat, and that creates like a real pain because the stencil is kind of, and you can see it does kind of blow out a little bit, but just kind of keep working through it. But doing the best I could, this is what I come up with. So I'm going to take this piece of wood here, and I'm going to push it up against it like that, so it'll make it lay flat against the boat right there. So this one has a little curve, so I was curving it in towards it. And then you're going to take your vice grips. There we go. You're going to vice grip that joker down on there. And as you can see, that already pushes the stencil a lot closer to the boat and kind of gets it over this curve. Where if you just tape it, it's just kind of draping off the front. Now it's a lot closer in, but it's still hanging out to the side like this. So I kind of painted the sides in 2 phases. I do like top, middle, bottom. And I do that by taking a long piece of wood like this, and I'd get on there and I'd hold it right there. And now that stencil would kind of lay as flat as I could make it, right? So then I'd stencil up here, I'd stencil underneath my hand, I'll move up just a sketch to get under where the stick was. If you don't, you'll get some little lines like this. You can see these little lines right here. Let's see, like that. These little lines right here are from the stencil stick. But anyways, and then you get on down to the bottom, kind of do the same thing. Get it right here like this. And sometimes I get you down here on my level. So you kind of get underneath it like this. And then you got this hanging off the bottom. Sometimes, if I can make it work, I would take a piece of masking tape, like stick it to the trailer, or like fold it up under here. Now, it gets more complicated as time goes on because the sides get steeper and steeper. So the front of the half of the boat wasn't that bad, but going to the back half, it got more difficult. So what I did is I have a Harbor Freight hoist that's hanging off the main beam to my barn up there. Anyways, and I took a strap, threw it on the stern, and come over here like this. And it'll kind of straighten this up a little bit, so it's not quite so down, but it's still not easy. And that's also how I got around my bunk boards. If you look down here, I got bunk boards. That's how I got around my bunk boards. So set this down real quick back on the trailer. Alright, there we go. So now when you do this, you do it in 2 phases. You're gonna do it's technically 3 phases. You're gonna do your base coat. So it's gonna be a solid black, real dark color. Black works best. You're gonna do a solid black, then you're gonna do your first layer. Your first layer is gonna be a dark color. Your second layer is gonna be your light color, and then your highlights are gonna be your brightest colors. So like your sand tan and your, actually use John Deere green on this. So John Deere green. So those were my highlight colors. So typically in art, when you're trying to make something look 3-dimensional, you go dark in the back and you work your way from the back to the front, going from darker to lighter colors, and it'll give it a effective dimension. So anyways, that was some of the things I was dealing with. Now, some more of the problems you deal with, if you follow me, and we'll get in the boat. See if I do this without busting my ass. Boop. So when you get down in here, there's a lot of tight spots and edges, right? You're not going to be able to lay those stencils over that and get them laid flat where you don't blow the edges out. There's just no way around it. So what I'd come up with is, you come up here with me, or wait right here, I'll come back. So the stencil kits they provide come with a little guy. The little guy's super duper handy. Little guy's how I did the edges, my handrails and stuff. What I did is I just lay it like here and just right across that bottom line. And then to kind of random it up, I'd move it over and I'd drop the stencil down a little, or I'd flip it over like this. I keep moving, and then I go from the edge, I'd lay it on the top of the rubber rail. But the problem is you only get one of these with each 2 big ones, and this one, as you can see, it's paint logged like super quick. So eventually I had to come up with something else. So I got my outside, I use my wood to push it up there, I clamp it on with my Irwin clamps, do all that. Now got my rub rails, I went around the outside first, then I went on top like this, then I went there. So now I'm on the inside of the boat. Inside of the boat's all black. So, you know, I'm working on stenciling that up. So I take my deep forest green, after my whole interior is painted dark black, and you're trying to get up in these edges. Now, as you can see, these have like a 3-inch border around them, which is good when you're trying not to spray paint something next to it, but it's bad when you're trying to overlap your pattern, because then you end up with at least this big 3-inch margin picture frame thing going around it, which don't look that good. So what I did was, like I said, you're gonna have to cannibalize some of them. I cut the thing straight in half, which gave me 2 other stencils. So with the stencil edges cut straight in half, I was able to throw it up on the gun box here and push it all the way to the edge and paint. Now, if you're, you know, I didn't get too super into trying to prevent overspray and stuff like that. If I could have, I'd stuck a piece of cardboard up like this. Like, get me a nice long piece of cardboard, stick it up there like that, and then I'd spray paint underneath it. So, you know, I do have some hazy marks and stuff under here, but it's super minor, so I'm not really all that worried about it. So I do that, and then, you know, you scoot it down, do it again. I had to get over these latches, so I just kind of, you do the best you can around them. You put it over the latch, and you just kind of try to, so to help with that, so I didn't get my hands totally covered in paint, I'd keep a little paint stick like this to kind of pin my stencil sometimes, and kind of help get the stencil flat around stuff. So that was another thing that I come up with, is these little paint sticks, and use that to help out with doing those too. So then, let's see what else. You got these little stencils for the rub rails. You're gonna run through them, and because there's two of these, I also cannibalized one of them. And then you're gonna get the smaller sections, like the sides of these gun boxes and stuff. If you're trying to do all this with the whole big ass stencil they send you, it's gonna be a problem. I mean, the thing's like 3x3. It's like a paint soaked, waterlogged, floppy piece of shit by the time you get done with them, right? So, and the long one I made is too long to really do that. You can try to do like a wrap, but really the easiest thing to do is take the other half, when you cut that one in half to make the long one, and cut it in half and make two smaller ones. And you can hang that joker like that, and that makes it a lot easier. And then you can also get it, like, you know, into the edges up here. They fold up because they're cut like this a lot easier. And see, this is when you'd come get your little stick. This is when you'd come get your little stick again, and you kind of force this joker up on the side. You don't really have to force it, but like lay it up there like that, and it's going to be sliding and covered in paint. So you take your stick, hold that, just like that. You know, you worked it up there, then you just slide it down. Now when you're moving these stencils, you don't want to go all the way off and like lay them directly next to each other. You actually kind of want to overlap by like an inch. I'd basically move my new stencil to where I'd start seeing like an inch or two in the new stencil coming in to where I was about the stencil from the old one. Now I did this when it was like 100 freaking degrees outside, so this spray paint was drying like instantaneously. So I was able to just move my stencil over and lay it kind of overlapped an inch, 2 or 3, and work the pattern where it would kind of overlap and make it look natural, like it wasn't like stencils laying next to each other. And sometimes you got to kind of like feather out the edges so there's not like a hard line here, and kind of pick where you tie it in with a little bit of creativity and whatnot. But that was that. So all the paint I used, I got for you here. Wait here, be back. Sit on the shady half of the boat because it is freaking hot. Okay, so all this paint I have, and the order in which I do it kind of goes like this. First, you need the whole boat to be black. I went through 13 cans of flat black paint. That's $6 a pop. Figure it out. I don't know how much. All right. I went through about 6 to 7 of these. Actually, before we go there, let's go here. Went through about 6 to 7 of these. This is your next color. This is your base stencil color. You don't do any highlighting. You just lay it down. It's the whole second layer. And then your last layer consists of my main color, which is flat khaki. So I'd flat khaki the whole stencil. And you got to try to be light because you're about to start adding more paint on top of it. And if you don't, it starts to like run and drip and pool, or spider crack when it dries and stuff like that. Because when paint dries, it off gases, and if you put paint on top of it too thickly, the top layer dries first on the outside, and then the bottom layer continues to off gas, and that's what creates the spider cracks that come through. So this was my main color. And then this is my second highlight color, or my first highlight color that I would use. And it's just like a brighter khaki. It's called Sand. This is a special camo sand. Let's see. Yep. So anyways, that was my second one. And then this is one that, you know, a lot of people are like, man, you're crazy. That's too bright. Yada, yada, yada. And it is Farm Implement Krylon John Deere green. And if you turn around with me real quick and look all behind me, that's what it looks like in the swamp right now. It is September, almost halfway through September. It still looks like that. It's still freaking 100 degrees outside. It'll be December before it gets cold, and the palm fronds will still be green, and half the reed grass will still be green. There's still going to be plenty of green. So if you're just out there one big ass khaki blob, you're going to stick out like a big khaki sore thumb. So you break that up with a little bit of this green, and we're back in business. At least I think so, and I think it looks tight too. So, but as you can see here, I'll get you a little closer to the pattern. See if you can see some of the different highlights. So obviously you can see the green. Let me find a place with some khaki in it. There's some sand. Let's see, that's sand. And then the lighter color is the khaki. So here's the sand, and here's like some khaki over here, and here's some of the green. They're all in here, so obviously. But yep, those are all the things I learned about camo spray paint in a duck boat that I wish I'd learned ahead of time. So if I was going to do this again for my 1548, I'd order 3 sets of the large stencils, and then I would cut one of them up off the bat into a long one, and then, you know, when you got the 2 halves, cut the second one in half. And I'd probably do that to both of them out of that one pack, just so I had more to work with. The second thing I'd have done, make sure you have paint sticks around for poking stuff into corners, and you got to have 2 really long ones, because you're going to have to use them to hold the whole stencils kind of flat. If you have a gantry, you can go ahead and use it to kind of pick up one side of the boat to try to make it, you know, more vertical so the stencil lays flat. I would have bought more paint. I went back and forth to Walmart like 5 times. Like I said, I used 12, 13 cans of black paint, 6 cans of deep forest green, 6 for the first base layer of the stencil, and that one's real easy, real light to put on. You know, it goes pretty quick. It's when you start doing the layers where you're going to do the whole thing in khaki, and then add the sand on top, and then add the green on top of that, that the stencils really start getting heavy with paint. So then I'm rotating through my stencils. So you got to have other stencils where you put that one out in the sun, kind of let it dry as much as it can, and then go to another one. It took me about 4 days in total to paint this whole boat. I call it paint jail whenever something goes to paint, because it's pretty much can't do anything with it till you get the job done. And I still, as you can see, have to do the transom, because I'm about to weld the transom riser on here. You can see my bigger motor in the background there. I painted that black while I was at it. But yeah, that's everything I think I learned about it. I wouldn't do a whole ton different. For the FL numbers, I did do my FL numbers. I'll show you that real quick. So I already had FL numbers on my boat. They were vinyl, you know, stencils somebody ordered from like boatnumbers.com or whatever the shit it is. Let's see, here they are. So what I did is I laid masking tape over it, you know, and I just barely overlap it, because if you layer it up, you're gonna have to get all 4 of those, you know, different layers of masking tape off of it. So I'd masking tape it and put another layer of masking tape down here where it just barely overlap, and I took a razor blade and I cut out around the vinyl stencil, because I painted the whole boat over top of the vinyls knowing I was going to do this. And then I peeled the masking tape off, and I peeled the vinyl number under it off, so I had essentially a masking tape stencil left. And then once I had the original vinyl off, and I used like some Goo Gone to get all the adhesive off, and Windexed it to get the Goo Gone off. But once I had those off, I essentially had a masking tape stencil, and then I spray painted the FL numbers over that, and then waited for it to dry, peeled the masking tape off. So that's how I did my FL numbers. And anyways, yeah, this is how it turned out. And let's see, get you that angle. And I'm pretty happy with it. So those are the things I wish I knew. Order 3 sets, cut them in half, cannibalize them sooner. That way you have that edge. You can push that edge all the way into the corner. Buy enough paint the first go around. Get yourself some long, flat, you know, paint sticks basically, and your Irwin grips, and vice grip them to the side of the boat. You've got the gantry tilted up. So, all right, appreciate you. Thanks for watching my little video. Bye. Okay. P.S. This is like a part 2. I just thought of a very crucial thing I forgot to mention. So the stencils, they have red leg written on them. That's how I can tell which orientation they're in. When you do your base layer, you do it one way, so like with the words up. When you do your second, if you don't flip your stencil, eventually it'll get to where you're laying it close over itself like this, where you get this weird, like almost looks like I stuttered with it, and the reason is because I kept it in the same orientation. So when you go back to do your second layer of stencil, you need to flip the stencil upside down 180 degrees. That way you don't get the exact same orientation. Like right here, you can see some doubling up right there, where it's almost directly laid on top of each other, and it doesn't add to the dimension as much as I would have liked for it to do. So make sure that when you do your base layer and then you go to do your last layer, your second layer, you flip the stencil over and then paint it. Otherwise, you're same inside the boat. And that's what the little stencils were good for too, is because it was easy to randomize them by flipping them all different orientations and stuff like that. So make sure you do that. And then also, I figured while you're here, I would show you my paint can casualty number. This is everything it took me to paint the entire boat. That's all of it. So also, while we're on it, you would think that clear coating it would be a good idea. I thought it might add to some of the durability of the boat paint job, but let me show you what happened. It actually kind of made me a little bit disappointed that I ended up doing this, and I shouldn't have. You see all these little, like, very tiny bubbles? It's like it didn't adhere right, and it started bubbling. I don't know if the paint was still off gassing or what, but it actually hazed it up more, and I wanted to keep that black real crisp because that helps add to dimension. Instead, it just muddied it up. So some of this isn't even like blowout from me stenciling it. It's the freaking clear coat I decided to put on it at the, I bought like 5 cans of it thinking it was a good idea, and I should have avoided that. So don't clear coat it, would be my opinion. I think I use like Krylon, flat matte clear coat, thinking that, oh, that's brilliant, right? Just another layer that if I rub up against the dock or whatever, it won't really bite into the paint. No, bad. Do not. All right, anyways, that wraps up. That's everything I should have known, wish I'd known, and everything I did to get the job done. So appreciate it. Bye.